Eva Chet.
Yes.
The experiments that were done on me in Auschwitz were two types. One experiment, they would put us naked in a room 3 times a week, usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for up to 8 hours. They would measure just about every part of my body, compare it to my twin sister Miriam, and then compare it to charts. They could spend 3 hours on an earlobe. They could spend 5 hours on a hand. It was very, very detailed. Every muscle, every knuckle, everything was measured to perfection. And then comparing it to my sister and comparing it to charts. The way I understand that experiment, they wanted to understand how much Miriam and I were alike, and also how close we were to the Aryan race that they were trying to design. So therefore they compared the data that they collected to the chart that they had to design a perfect Aryan race. These experiments were not dangerous, but they were unbelievably demeaning, and even in Auschwitz I had difficulty coping with it because 8 hours standing or sitting on a bench is a very long time. And it made me feel like I was not really a human being, that I was nothing more but a living piece of me. And even in Auschwitz, I had difficulty coping with that. The other experiments that were done, they were done also 3 times a week, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And these experiments, I call them the blood lab because they would take us to a lab, about maybe 15, 20 twins at a time, individuals. They would tie both of my arms to restrict the blood flow. I'm sorry. And they would take a lot of blood from my left arm and give me a minimum of 5 injections into the right arm, which were really deadly ones. We didn't know the content of the injections then. The rumor was that they were germs, diseases, and drugs. And I think that was a very good assumption. After one of those injections, I became very ill with a very high fever. Both my legs and arms were swollen and very painful, and I had huge red spots throughout my body. The next visit to the blood lab, they did not tie my arms for blood taking and injections. Instead of that, they measured my fever, and I knew I was in trouble. I was taken to the hospital. The hospital was another barrack filled with people who looked more dead than alive. Next morning, Dr. Mengele came in with 4 other doctors. What was even then surprising for me that he never ever examined me. All he did, he looked at my fever chart, and then he declared, laughing sarcastically. He said, "Too bad, she's so young, she has only 2 weeks to live." I knew he was right, but I refused to die. So I made a second silent pledge that I will prove Dr. Mengele wrong. I will survive and be reunited with my twin sister Miriam. For the following 2 weeks, I have only one clear memory. I remember crawling on the barrack floor because I couldn't walk anymore, and I was crawling to reach a faucet with water because this barrack was not even allocated water. And as I was crawling, I would fade in and out of consciousness, and I kept telling myself, even in a semi-conscious state of mind, that I must survive, I must survive. After 2 weeks, my fever broke, and I immediately felt a lot stronger. It took me another 3 weeks before my fever chart showed normal and I was released and reunited with the other twins and Miriam. But Miriam looked very sick. She looked just like the living dead I left in the hospital. And when I asked her, what happened to you? What have they done to you? She said, I cannot talk about it. I will not talk about it. And Miriam and I never talked about Auschwitz until 1985. That's a very long time.